This is Optimal Living Daily, episode 207, Overclock Your Audio Learning by Steve Pavlina of stevepavlina.com.
Get ready to maximize your potential with Optimal Living Daily, the podcast that brings you the best in personal development and productivity every day of the week. Your optimal life awaits. Now here's your host, Justin Malik.
What's going on, Life Optimizers? Welcome to Optimal Living Daily. I'm Justin Malik, the guy who was a recurring guest on the Late Late Show with Craig Ferguson, known as one of the sweater guys. I went to see a live taping of his show in Hollywood back in 2008, and it was around the time of Christmas, so my friend and I wore ugly Christmas sweaters to the show's taping, and Craig Ferguson thought it was funny, so he brought us up onto the show, and we came back another 6 or 7 times dressed up in different outfits, and he put us on the show every single time. Luckily, he didn't have us talk. He basically just made fun of us, which is good times. If you go to YouTube and search Late Show Sweater Guys, I'm sure a couple of the episodes will appear. Anyway, I'm back with a post from Steve Pavlina, and this one is a bit different than his other stuff. This is more of a life hack that is really applicable to podcasts. But before we get into it, if you haven't checked out Optimal Finance Daily, please subscribe to that podcast too. I find the content and produce that show, so if you help support that show, you're supporting this one also. And I think that's it, so let's hear from Steve and start optimizing your life. Overclock Your Audio Learning by Steve Pavlina of stevepavlina.com. If you want to absorb written material at a faster rate, you can learn to speed read or photo read. But what if you have a lot of audio material to listen to, such as audiobooks or podcasts? Did you know that if you have 60 minutes of audio material to listen to, you can very easily digest the material in 30 minutes or less? And with practice, you can even get it done in less than 15 minutes. Modern media players can play audio at faster rates than the default, and they'll automatically adjust the pitch so the voices sound faster but not squeaky. Some players provide this feature via a plugin. Windows Media Player has this feature built in. For example, in the latest version of Windows Media Player, click the arrow below Now Playing, then click Enhancements, Show Play Speed Settings. This will bring up the speed controls that enable you to increase the speed of any files you're playing. I prefer to uncheck the Snap Slider to Common Speeds box so I can make finer adjustments. The disadvantage of using speeds like 2.1x or 3.2x is that you'll get a bit more distortion compared to the Snap 2 defaults. You should have no trouble comprehending spoken audio material at 1.4x speed. And after a few minutes, you'll probably be able to handle 2x with no loss of comprehension, which will cut your audio learning down to half the time. Once you get used to 2x, keep nudging the slider to higher speeds until you can no longer handle the distortion. Then try to increase it again after a few minutes. Of course, if there are real-time exercises to do, you can always reduce the speed to normal for those portions. I'm currently able to absorb most audio programs at 4x, although I occasionally slow down to 2.5 or 3x for naturally fast speakers. I recommend using headphones when listening at rates above 2x since it helps reduce background noise and makes it easier to stay focused. The quality of your headphones will largely determine how distorted the audio becomes at faster playback rates. I get better results with the Sennheiser headphones I use for podcasting versus the smaller earbud types. By using this technique, you can go through a 6-hour audio program in as little as 90 minutes. Your mind can easily handle the faster input rate since you can think far faster than anyone can talk. If you jump straight to a speed of 4x or higher without practicing at lower speeds, the material may sound so garbled you won't be able to make sense of it, but your brain will eventually adapt. You'll begin to discern words and phrases, and with continued practice, your mind will become capable of figuring out what's being said. Even at 4x speed, you're still listening consciously. You may miss a few words here and there, but you should be able to grasp the meaning. I find this rapid rate of listening far more engaging and enjoyable. When listening to audio programs at normal speed, typically recorded at around 150 words per minute, my mind wanders too easily. So I usually multitask while listening to programs on my iPod. But at 600 words per minute, I like to sit and listen attentively because I'm more mentally engaged. After 10 minutes of listening at 2 to 4x, try going back to listen at 1x or even 1.4x. It will seem incredibly slow because your mind will have adapted to the faster input rate. My comfortable max is around 4.1x. Beyond that speed, the distortion becomes so great that it's hard to make out what's being said, but maybe that's where we head into subconscious learning. A reasonable listening session for me is about 30 to 60 minutes. In that time, I can usually go through 2 to 4 hours of audio material. In Windows Media Player, the speed controls don't seem to work with CDs or DVDs, except that with the DVD I can accelerate the video, but not the audio, which isn't of much use. So you must first rip the content to your computer's hard drive and then play it from there. This audio overclocking technique complements speed reading and photo reading nicely. If you've gone through the photo reading program already, you'll be able to adapt many parts of the system to audio learning, such as imagining the tangerine on your head and setting a clear intention for what you want to learn. Even the photo focus state can be adapted by keeping your mind relaxed and open while you listen. I think you'll find, as I do, that when you listen to audio material at a faster than normal rate, your comprehension and retention of the material improves dramatically. Instead of getting bogged down in the low-level details and examples, you emerge with a clear sense of the big picture. To me, it almost feels like I'm downloading ideas directly from the author's brain. You just listened to the post titled Overclock Your Audio Learning by Steve Pavlina of stevepavlina.com. My good friend and business partner listens to me at like 2x, and he's able to consume a lot of podcast content. And while a little bit might not get heard here and there, especially if you're somewhat distracted, I do think it's a great way to take in a lot of material, and it's definitely true that you get used to it. Granted, if English isn't your first language, this is much harder to do. You can even start at 0.5x, slow it down, but then I sound really drunk, according to my business partner. But you can work your way up since there are different speeds. And if you listen twice as fast, that means you can listen to both my podcasts in the same amount of time as one. So why not also check out my other podcast, Optimal Finance Daily, where I found a really nice guy and great reader, Dan, to host that show. I find the posts and he reads them to you, and it's all under the Optimal Living Daily family, so your support of that show helps this one too. You can find Optimal Finance Daily in the same app that you're hearing this now. And that's another episode down. I'll be back tomorrow with a Wellness Wednesday episode, so I'll see you there where your optimal life awaits.
Hey, this is Dan from the Optimal Finance Daily podcast, which is a lot like this show, except more focused on personal finance. Justin handpicks the best posts he can find from blogs and authors like Ramit Sethi, Mr. Money Mustache, and more, and I read them to you 5 days a week. So if you enjoy this podcast, come on over and subscribe to Optimal Finance Daily too. And together, we'll optimize your financial life.
You've been listening to Optimal Living Daily. Be sure to hit the subscribe button to stay up to date on each new episode, and head to oldpodcast.com. That's OLDpodcast.com for a free gift, as well as more actionable tips and resources to help you maximize your potential. Thanks for joining us, and remember, your optimal life awaits.